Well, hello there, and welcome back to Bible Break, our 15 minutes dive and delve into the Bible. And we've come into the end now of the story of Jacob and Esau. But we've yet to see, and we've got to see with our reading today how it's all going to, how it's all going to end and whether it'll end well. So we're in Genesis 33, and I'm reading from my NIV as usual. We're going to read the whole chapter. I think it's just the 20 verses, so verse 1 to 20. All right, so let's go. Let's get on with it. Jacob meets Esau, this meeting, which he had been fearing, and certainly long awaiting, 20 years no less. So anyway, here we go. He has to meet Esau at some point, and here it is. Chapter 33, Jacob looked up, and there was Esau, coming with his 400 men. So he divided the children among Leah, Rachel, and the two maidservants. He put the maidservants and their children in front, Leah and her children next, and Rachel and Joseph in the rear. He himself went on ahead and bowed down to the ground 7 times as he approached his brother. But Esau ran to meet Jacob and embraced him. He threw his arms around his neck and kissed him, and they wept. Then Esau looked up and saw the women and children. "Who are these with you?" he asked. Jacob answered, "They are the children God has graciously given your servant." Then the maidservants and their children approached and bowed down. Next, Leah and her children came and bowed down. Last of all came Joseph and Rachel, and they too bowed down. So I think everybody's got the message here as to how to approach Esau, how to address Esau, and how to treat Esau. And so there's a lot of bowing down. So verse 8, Esau asked, What do you mean by all these droves I met? To find favor in your eyes, my lord, he said. But Esau said, I already have plenty, my brother. Keep what you have for yourself. No, please, said Jacob. If I have found favor in your eyes, accept this gift from me. For to see your face is like seeing the face of God now that you've received me favorably. It's an interesting verse, that, isn't it? We'll come back to it. Please accept the present that was brought to you, for God has been gracious to me, and I have all that I need. And because Jacob insisted, Esau accepted it. Then Esau said, Let us be on our way, I'll accompany you. But Jacob said to him, My Lord knows that the children are tender and that I must care for the ewes and cows that are nursing their young. If they are driven hard just one day, all the animals will die. So let my Lord go on ahead of his servant while I move along slowly at the pace of the droves before me and that of the children until I come to my Lord in Seir. Esau said, Then let me leave some of my men with you. But why do that? Jacob asked. Just let me find favor in the eyes of my Lord. So that day Esau started on his way back to Seir. Jacob, however, had no intention of following. Jacob, however, went to Succoth, where he built a place for himself and made shelters for his livestock. That is why the place is called Succoth. After Jacob came from Paddan Aram, where he had been with his uncle Laban, he arrived safely at the city of Shechem in Canaan and camped within sight of the city. For 100 pieces of silver he bought from the sons of Hamor, the father of Shechem, the plot of ground where he pitched his tent. And there he set up an altar and called it El Elohei Israel. So the first construction was an altar to God, the God of Israel, the God who revealed himself to my fathers, the God who was faithful to them and with whom they walked and who kept and guarded and guided and protected them, but who is now my God, because even in this very chapter which we've just read, we see the enormous evidence of God's protection, God's provision, God's intervention and help in Jacob's life. That is the point of that verse that I said that we were going to, and we are going to look at a bit more fully. Verse 10. But just to set the scene once again, this is the meeting, just to remind ourselves, that Jacob has been dreading and preparing for. Why? Because he initially, 20 years ago, had to flee from this man, his brother Esau, because his mother had advised him to, because she could see how intense was the anger that Esau was harboring towards Jacob, because Jacob had behaved despicably. For all the worthiness of Jacob's ambitions in wanting to have the birthright, in wanting to get that off his brother, wanting to have his father's blessing over his brother, for all his correct, as opposed to his brother, his correct judgment of the importance and the worth of these things, his correct reckoning of what mattered in life, he despicably deceived his brother and his father. And again, we can only really feel intense emotion towards people, I suppose, who we are close to. And Esau felt very, he felt awful about the way that his brother deceived him and tricked him and effectively betrayed him. So that's how intense was his feeling and his hatred towards Jacob at that point, his anger at what Jacob had done, that he looked set to kill him. In fact, we're told that he decided that he was going to kill him. Well, Rebecca was very wise in telling Jacob to go to her brother. And we see here in this chapter that time is a healer. The time gives the time for people to change their mind or forget about the harm that's been done to them, however great. And over the 20 years, it's quite clear that Esau has changed to the extent that the emotion which he feels now towards his brother is still there, and it's still great. But far from harboring and cultivating this anger and this hatred that he had, it's been more a question, it seems, at any rate, that he's missed his brother. In the meantime, God has made, Esau himself doesn't say so, but one can only assume from what he does say, that God has made up to Esau a great deal, because Esau himself is doing all right, thank you. As he says to Jacob. So that kind of, makes things better. Esau just seems to have been missing his brother now, and the intense feeling of anger has turned to an intense missing his brother. At least I think that's a reasonable interpretation of the wonderful welcome, the surprising welcome, which Esau gives his brother. It's not Jacob who runs to Esau. I mean, he wouldn't, would he? He was afraid of his brother coming to him with these 400 men. He didn't know whether that was to do him harm or whether it was to do him good. But no, as it turns out, it's Esau who runs to Jacob. What a lovely surprise. Now, let's be clear about something. Esau has humiliated himself before his brother. There's been a lot of bowing and scraping here because Jacob wanted to show Esau really how sorry he was, and really the shame of his treachery and his betrayal all those many years before. He wanted to show Esau that indeed, in a sense, he was obliged to show him, because it was Esau once again who had all the might and power behind him to treat Jacob badly here. But no, Jacob wanted to show Esau that quality which is so lacking in us, really. Shame. He wanted to show Esau. I've noticed what he had felt as he understood and realized what he'd done. And he expresses his sorrow and shame at having wronged his brother Esau in the way that he had done those 20 years before. And that was the reason for all the bowing and scraping and the gift, the large gift, you remember, that he had prepared for his brother, and that he insists that Esau take off him. So that's the moral sense of, Jacob knowing that he has wronged his brother, but knowing that he has wronged the moral order by lying and cheating, and that he has wronged God. And he is afraid of what judgment, what punishment, or what retribution his brother might exact, and what God might exact by way of the fraud which he'd played all those years before. But as it turns out, as I say, things have completely changed, and it's Esau who runs towards his brother Jacob and throws himself upon him. And, they hug each other and they weep together because they love each other. That's the bottom line. They're brothers. But Jacob reads something else into this wonderful reunion and reconciliation, as it turns out, because there was no guarantee whatsoever, quite the opposite, that it was going to turn out this way. But so Jacob, he reads something more into this. And that's why I wanted to highlight this 10th verse. We're going to go back to finish with this 10th verse, because we're going to have another look at what Jacob says to Esau. If I have found favor in your eyes, accept this gift from me. For to see your face, that's Esau's face, right? For to see your face is like seeing the face of God. Now that you've received me favorably. So, that is the weight and the importance and that Jacob attaches to this meeting, to this reunion, to this reconciliation with his brother. Seeing not just his brother here, welcoming him, forgiving him, receiving him, but seeing God in this situation, welcoming him, receiving him, forgiving him, with such emotion, such joy, such generosity of spirit, not grudgingly, but so glad to see you again, my brother, so glad to have you back. What a beautiful surprise. And it's really this that is at the heart of the message of the gospel, that if we all are prepared to humble ourselves before God, recognize our fault, have a sense of our shame in wronging God and in hurting others. And if we are prepared to take that part upon us and humble ourselves before God, seek his forgiveness, as well as those who we have wronged, then what a beautiful surprise. What a wonderful surprise that instead of God doing what he could do, which would be to say, well, it's too late now, the damage is done, look at what you've done, and to exact punishment upon us. No, there is so much talk in our reading of grace and the goodness of God and his willingness to forgive us when we turn to him, looking for that forgiveness and seeking that forgiveness in the right frame of mind and in the right spirit. So there we are. I shall leave you with that wonderful surprise today, which, as I say, is open to all who will avail themselves of God as he has revealed himself in his word, the Bible. Okay, so we've gone way over time. I'll leave you there then, and I'll see you next time around.